but like, society has very little reason to function at all at this point. Like, you know, like if the whole grid just shut down, like the whole power grid just shut down, nobody would care because it doesn't function anyway. It has no meaning. It's just so worthless and so dysfunctional that it has no bearing. At this point, it has no bearing. So, um, that's just the first part of the problem. The other parts, I can't have a life because there's so many other people who also want to have a life, and even to properly like kind of like a computer that's like overwhelmed with the computer is like overwhelmed with like it's out of storage, and or there's a server with a shit ton of people. It's all in the same realm that that you're there, they aren't, and whatnot. The only solution I would see, in terms of at least energy consumption, and by that I mean food, I'd have to turn to like some kind of energy source, and I'd have to like reverse breathe or something, right? Because when you're breathing oxygen, you're going forward in life. You're moving the wheel of time forward. But if you breathe carbon dioxide, you're actually turning the clock backwards. But believing any of this shit and believing it's even real is probably one of the first mistakes people make. Even taking other people seriously and having to convince them of anything, really. Like the fact that you would go up to a person and you would convince them, or try to get their sympathy for anything, is stupid, right? That's a stupid way to live. It's a stupid way to conform to anybody and respect them in that way, because kind of like flies that are on the Venus flytrap, when you're like all these gadgets, like the fucking cell phone and the TV, that's what it is. It's created literally to sedate and paralyze, and it's almost like after you're sedated and paralyzed, it's like the creator of the TV show, or the creator of the TV show, or the not just the TV show, but the the broadcasting company, or even your fucking parents, right? You think you can trust your parents? Think again. Yeah, it's created to paralyze and sedate the person, so that that they can't even fight back, right? Okay, your food is genetically modified, full of pesticides, and it's genetically modified, full of pesticides, and it's soy food, soy products, and artificial flavors and fats and whatever, and so you're eating this food, and you're being fed the propaganda of like transgenderism and all that. And granted, I don't hate on any of these people, right? I don't hate on like people because of a group, right? And I know people don't really believe me when I say that, because they think that I created that Gay History Month video, and why don't we have a White History Month, right? That was a joke. The joke is that white people created all of this system, and have basically not only ruined their own lives, but they ruined the lives of the people who used to live here and all that. And obviously, like I don't know, like I feel terrible for the poor indigenous people. Maybe they don't want people to feel bad for them, I don't know. But at this point, even then, I already said it once and I said it again, but I'm not looking to gain favor from random people, right? Like, I can go my whole entire life without talking to another person, and I think that's the way it should be, right? Especially if I'm confident in myself and in safety, like, because safety is a big thing, right? The people who should be getting randomly attacked or should be worried or having issues are Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, not random people. Like, even the middle class, or even the highest, like even the upper class in America, which they don't go by that anymore. They don't even have that. They use like, income strata. They don't have an upper class, middle class, lower class. They don't even realize that they live in a caste system when they actually do. Here, I'm gonna cross the street. So they don't realize they live in a caste system, even though they actually do. And so people can classify me as whatever they want. And I already mentioned what my race, class, and creed is. It's from Central Asia. I'm not affiliated with, any ancestry here. I acknowledge that, like the modern world and, modern world and, like it's over, like it's terrible. It's a terrible situation, right? And the worst part about it, and I feel sincerely bad for the average person, because what these TV shows do and what these movies and these evil actors and Hollywood and just random people that really try to emphasize or try to show that they're happy, try to use the social media and the influencer thing to propagate an image like, oh yeah, everything in the world is fine, and the world isn't ending, and like this is me using social media and whatever, right? I'm just saying for the record, it's sadistic. It's sadistic because if the average person, they can barely even develop a personality before getting attacked or murdered. That's not right? We know that that's not right. Especially for the indigenous people. Like I only really care and worry about them because I truly feel bad for them, right? Like the indigenous people to Canada, like the ones who are being asked to integrate all these people and these technologies and these concepts, right? Because they are the ones who are going to inherit it, right? Like if the white population is dying for one reason or another, and apparently, we're running out of white people per se, according to some people, but I'm being straightly objective. I don't hate on any race. I haven't hated on any race. And the thing is people are going to use the argument that you hated on this race because, and they'll prove it by being like, you're just saying this for the popular vote, and everybody can easily say, like, of course we're holding hands in like 1950 or 1960 when there's an abundance of resources and there's hippies to have the whole thing go along. And I still ask, what the fuck motivated the people in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s to continue their society, right? Or continue our society, right? There was no point in them in continuing the society. And whether or not it's not even just the system, but who these people are in these movies and why they supported that person. And obviously, I understand, our reality can easily be skewed and verbally, and because I already mentioned that I can lie and other people can lie, and I can lie, other people can lie. They can tell you one thing to your face. They can make a voice that sounds convincing and sounds honest, and then behind your back or in some void, they have an entirely different thought or emotion. And if I had to be honest, fate versus free will, if I had to be honest, right? I you would go with the fate that was intended in the first place, right? Because there was already another person, that could have even looked like me, that was attending University of Toronto, and I'm just a needless drain on the system. And even these universities and colleges, man, what the fuck? Sorry, I don't know if I ate something that's causing me to inhale more air than usual, or if it's the fucking Cliff Bar, or if I'm getting gassed up, or if I'm bloating, or if I'm saying too much, or if I'm just so frustrated and pissed off right now, or if it's just these other people that seem to be way too complicit, way too complicit, right? I'm going back to these videos, okay? So, going back to the video, the complaint that I have, right? It's a valid complaint, right? Because it's I don't, if it was properly done, I would accept getting randomly attacked, and then I'd call it a day, right? Like, I get it, like, being fully conscious, and if I were to use my full brain power, you can exhaust not only your brain power, but the brain power of those around you, right? You can do that, right? There's people who know that you could suck people's energy and their life force and their motivation. I've seen it happen. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to watch these videos, and you don't have to take my word for it. But like, for one, like, whether morality is an objective thing, it's not actually, like, there's no such thing as a soul, and morality is all just tied down to money, and it can be quantified. That's all up to debate, right? Because it's clear that that's what happened. It's people they threw all the responsibility on money, that it would save them, right? And we already know money won't save you, right? So and I don't mean that in a way like, yeah, there are emotions, and there's people who are bitter, and that bitterness doesn't change because you give them a bunch of money, and you give lip service, and you tell them a bunch of nice things that they want to hear. Like, they're not going to change, right? And Mark Carney's apologies, if he even gave one, I don't know if it was Trudeau who gave the apology, it holds no relevance, because the person is still upset. Their life was so ruined, and they're still having to partake in the system, and even to own a house, and to go through the whole, like, routine, if they even have one, I don't know. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's a whole waste of time and energy, and going through the system and the whole 9 yards. You realize how much of your time is going to go to waste. These videos, like, this is me making a statement. Maybe it's the only statement I'll ever make in regards to geopolitical, social disasters that happened before I was even born. So it's not like I don't even know how to respond, because I get some of these issues are, like, they're completely out of my control, and they just happened, right? But some of these issues are, like, they are what they are. They don't just pop out of nowhere, and unfortunately, hold on. No, because the thing is, like, a lot of people, they think that, I don't want to be that guy, who's gonna try very hard, and then like, they forget something, right? It's like they forget their conscience, and they forget the state of the world, and they lose self-awareness in terms of how they come off, right? Like, I get that, and that's why I make sure that the videos are, like, they're very strict, they're very thorough and to the point, and I try to alleviate that stress, because I'm not confident, right? Like, I can appear confident when I walk, even when I'm making these videos, or like when I'm just in the school or something, but I'm not, right? Like, my responsibility, I know that my responsibility is to myself, and not to the people in the videos and whatever. And making physical or social contact of any kind goes against that whole idea of the fate that was intended for me 10-15 years ago. And I mean that as in, like, that fate was it was sealed. It's a destiny. The thing is, my whole life's purpose would have been to be in the system, and to maybe even change the system, because I'm in it, right? I'm in it. My mom worked at U of T, and I don't have to provide an explanation to any of this stuff, right? I could have stayed silent, right? Nobody was asking for an explanation, because maybe everything was already predetermined. And waiting those 30 odd years to become a family doctor, like I mentioned yesterday. Excuse me, I gotta get breath. Okay, yeah, so waiting those 30 odd years to become a family doctor, like I said yesterday, holds no bearing. It holds no weight. Your life isn't made better because you sit there and you do those 30 years or whatever. And let alone, because I'm not the only one getting the degree, and the world, or at least it's possible, right? It's possible that um, the degree that I get and all that. I mean, it's possible that, because I'm not the only one getting a degree, that, like that it's possible that, that the you know it's entirely possible that the person will be like, it's not your fault, it's entirely possible that, like there's some people who live in a different time period or in a different dimension where these factors, the things I talk about, they don't hinder technological growth and progress, right? So, like, the thing is, the only thing that really changes, like, just like in that computer game Fallout, they says, like, war never changes. The only thing that changes, like, in a person's life, really, it's the only thing that really changes is the weaponry that's used, whether it's a club, a rock, a club, and then, I don't know, a spear or like a sword, as the time progresses forward. The only thing that changes is the weapon of choice, but the conflicts are still the same, and yeah, the conflicts are still the same. And unfortunately, like, some of this stuff is, again, very common sense. And a lot of these old videos, like, a lot of the videos are like overdue, and they present really a conscious reality that, that the human world, the human existence, even the human race is doomed. We're always at a state where we're doomed. And if you realize that, the sooner you realize that and you internalize it, right now my voice is calm and I'm trying to, like, be collected, but obviously, like, I should be pissed. There was times I was very pissed and all that, but I'm not saying that the anger should be directed at obviously the right person, but for the sake of my physical and mental health, I don't allow my anger to take control of me, because then, because it affects your physical health, like having a heart attack, that's related to physical and psychological stress, and having issues sleeping, eating and all that, because, like I mentioned, there could be people who live in a different, like, technological period where, technology advances at an exponential rate. That's not in my reality, at least from what I know of. Holy shit, there's a bunch of fucking mosquitoes. That's not in my reality, right? My reality, obviously, like, maybe technology halts its progression, but, like, back in the day, it was different, back when, like, it was different. So back in the day when it was, I really at 5%.